Hi, everyone. Hi. Nice to see all your faces. I'll just let everyone in as we go. All right. It's good to see you all. Yeah, I'm still in the UK. Not sure when I'm going home. Anyway, it's certainly been an interesting time. We've finally got my brother's funeral out the way, so now we can get on to other stuff. Yeah, but it's been an interesting week, and just having a look at kind of where things lie for us all. It does feel like there's an intensity that is coming around because we seem to have gone through some sort of energetic shift. I haven't really been too clued up recently around what's happening astrologically. I've been busy with other things. But it definitely felt this week, Thursday evening, Friday, there was a significant shift in the energies and a lightening of things, which has been really, really good. I think we need that lightness at the moment. And certainly it doesn't seem like, things in the external world are calming down in any way or anything is changing, but there's certainly a shift that is happening within us that is bringing well, it seems to be bringing a focus towards I want to use the word more of a heart focus and less of a head focus. There's a lot of stuff that we have been called to do that has been very internal. We've been called to draw inwards, to tap into ourselves, and there really is a feeling of expansion as the more we do that. There is also this rebalance within us that is connecting us in a deeper way to our heart space. And that heart space is the space that we must be accessing because it is the space that we use to connect with our soul. So there is this real sense that is what we're moving into. And what is going to be surfacing as a result of that are the things that block us from accessing that heart space. So you may find as we move into this week that there are things that are certainly on an emotional level that are coming up, if they haven't already started coming up, that are saying, these are the things that need to be resolved. These are the things that need to be let go of or released, whether they're old programming, old patterns, old relationships. That kind of energy is coming up because they create barriers for us to access that heart space and therefore access the wisdom and the truth and the insights and guidance that we need from our soul moving forward. And I'm not too sure where I read this in the last couple of days, but it was a post on either Instagram or Facebook that really spoke about how we are moving from this old way of being and into a new way of being. And the new way of being is definitely we're being called to access that new way of being through the energy of our soul versus the energy of how we've operated in the past, which has been mainly ego dominated. And as a result of that, if we look at how we have navigated our lives and the thoughts, ideas, visions, insights, and information we have used from the past to determine how our life should look and how we should be in our world, has shifted and is shifting. So there is this real sense of accessing new dreams, new visions, new ideas, and new thoughts about how things should be in the future. So we're letting go of this old part of ourselves that really is clinging to the cliff. And so there is resistance that is coming up. There's resistance in the way that actually this doesn't fit how I thought my life should play out. This doesn't fit how I thought things would be or how I would be. And we need to almost surrender those old dreams, surrender those old visions, surrender those old ways of living and being, so that we can allow for the new to come in. And on a subconscious level, there are these programmings and patternings that are emerging, but the energy is coming in to release them and to help them to be released. So we really need to work with that. And we've been through this massive time of purging. This year has really been an intense time of clearing and purging, and a lot of what has happened to us as a result of external influence or external circumstances has really forced us to look at life from a different perspective, to be able to look at things as and to almost get back to basics and to simplify where we are, who we are right now, and what it is that we need to be doing so that our life can unfold in a different way and in a new way. So most of this year has been that. It has been a time of reflection, and as we move into this more and more into this month and move towards December, where there is going to be this massive change and shift, although we don't really know how that is going to look, whether it's just going to be an internal thing or it's going to be an external thing as well. We really need to be focusing on what are these last, I suppose, the last bits of ourselves that really need to shift and change. And often these parts of us are the ones that have been buried quite deep. So they are surfacing, they are calling us to look at them, to assess them, and to clear them out. And that's going to become more and more prevalent. For a lot of people, we need to be aware that this is happening so that we don't get sucked into the negativity around them, so that we don't get caught up in the old emotional stuff that is sitting around them, because there is emotional stuff that is there. And we need to almost allow the emotions to surface and to just observe them, allow them to come up and let them go, rather than diving into them and staying in that space of old emotions. Often when there is suppressed emotions, they get stuck and trapped somewhere in the energy field or somewhere in our physical body. So you may find that there's shifting that is happening on an energetic level within your own field, and as a result of that, there's going to be physical stuff that is coming up. So really just observe your body. One of the things that I often teach is the ability to use the body as the tool to see what is being held and what is being suppressed. And we can find that by finding where's the tension, where's the stiffness, where's the pain. And when we move into those places of stiffness or into those places of pain, then we can start to access and release that. Often it is a good opportunity to just hold that space, whether it's your neck or your shoulder, your stomach, your hips, your knees. Those are the kind of areas that seem to hold most, the lower back particularly, really working to hold those spaces, which allows this energy, this old emotional energy, to surface and just to be released. We don't have to relive the experiences. We don't have to relive the emotions. We just have to allow them to move and to shift on out of us. One of the things, I tried to do some yoga today. It wasn't good. It wasn't its usual flowing space. I kind of kept thinking this must just end now. Because there certainly were spaces in my body that were really tight and I could feel really holding on. And obviously it's been an emotional time, so there's obviously emotional stuff that is coming up, and I am going to have to sit with it and allow it the space. So it is important to observe how our body is reacting in these times. I don't know if anyone else has had any experiences this week that they'd like to share, or any insights that they've had. I've had a couple of emails over the last few days just saying that people really are feeling a significant shift and are feeling quite positive about that shift, although they don't know how that's going to play out. I think that for most of us, we don't know how it's going to play out.
I've got something, Kate. First of all, I was walking in the forest, and as usual, that's where the insights come. And it felt like the 5-dimension was overlapping the 3-dimension for me. So it's like kind of taking more and more space in and around me, and like kind of pushing the old away. And then I applied for a job offer in Luxembourg in a fabulous school, an international school. And I said, okay, because it's a good salary, I would give up my English lessons. And so the universe has sent me a private English possibility for lessons in a time which would be possible for me. So what are you going to do, Lynn? Are you going to accept it, or are you going to follow your dream? So I'm going to refuse it because I want to visualize this new school. So it's like kind of testing, are you going to go with the old 3D? Or are you going to actually accept something that would be fantastic for you? So that's kind of applies to what you were saying.
Well done. Yeah, I think it's important to be able to see those and to observe them so that you can see the choices that are being presented, because it is definitely, you're going to take the old world, or you're going to step into the new. There's a message here from Elizabeth Rose. Feels like I've been stripped bare this week. The abandoned inner child is very vocal. I found that if I do healing in that very moment, it's done quicker than waiting till I have more time and space. It's pretty instant. On the other hand, no energy for much, not even walking. So just a lot of lying and resting, but felt the need to construct for new. Well done, Lynn. Yeah, I must say there is definitely a faster process that is happening, and I think we are being given this opportunity to shift through things much quicker than we have ever before. So that's fantastic. And I think that we have this idea, and I know I do it as well, as I think I'll just press pause on that feeling right now because I haven't got the time, or I haven't got the space, or there's other things that I need to get to. So I don't go into the feeling or into the emotion because I feel like it's going to take time for it to process through me. And I don't think that we are in that space anymore. I think we're able to do this instant clearing and releasing as well as the instant manifestation. Yeah, so it's a good thing to remember that it can be done in the moment. It doesn't have to be done at a different time or in a different space. I mean, I think it's also, as we move through this week and of just observing what is surfacing, what resistance within us is surfacing, it's important to also look at that resistance as it is probably old programmings or old patterns or old emotions that are coming up and triggering fear that is, about what we're stepping into and how we're stepping forward. And I think that we can get caught up in how things should look versus just allowing it to be the way that it needs to be. We do get caught up in this idea of everything needs to be perfect and everything needs to be in place before we step in, whereas we're not being shown what is coming up in the future. All what we're being shown is this step right now, and that's the step that I need to take. And I think if we can get away from constructing in our mind the idea of how that should look and just allow the flow to happen, it means that the next step comes and the next step comes, and so life unfolds in a far easier and more graceful way than us trying to control it. Yes, flowing with what is. I felt guided to flow and significantly do so with joy. Well, I think also when we let go of those attachments that we have to how things should be, then we do allow for that space of joy. I mean, if you think about as children, and if you observe children, step into each day, what's going to come at me now, you know, with excitement and with that level of joy versus the need to, you know, make sure that it's safe and that everything is okay. I mean, that's a parent's job, is to make sure that things are safe. I mean, my youngest daughter, when she was little, we had like this climbing thing in the garden. And I mean, she was only about 1.5, and she used to go right to the top and just stand there, you know, ready to dive off. And I used to have to make sure all the time that I was watching where she was, because, you know, she happily would have died. I used to come towards her and she would dive off into my arms. You know, and there was no fear. There was no worry about, you know, she's going to hurt herself. And I remember at the time being really conflicted in myself of, you know, not wanting to cause anxiety in her or fear in her by saying, be careful all the time, but also knowing that, you know, if she dive bombed off there, she might have cracked her skull open. So I think that, you know, we do have this, as adults, we have the experience of our life that dictates to us, you know, that actually things can go horribly wrong. And I think that we need to let go of that so we can step into the space of being able to access the freedom that allows us to embrace the new without fear of being hurt or failing. You know, if we don't give it a go, we're never going to know. Anyone else have anything they'd like to share? My voice is a little croaky today.
I do, Kate. I can't see you very well. You sort of frozen up a lot of the time, but hopefully you can see me. Can you see us clearly?
Yeah, I can see all of you clearly.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's just confirming really what you're saying. I've been sort of in a process for, I don't know, about two or 3 weeks now of doing some very sort of intense, deep healing work on things, very specific things, and just taking, it usually takes about 45 minutes, but it is surprising to me every time, as you're talking about that, you know, I would think it would take longer to clear the things that I'm clearing. And I really can feel afterwards, I actually really have cleared them, because what you were talking about, that sort of heart space, I've never felt it so clearly in my life. Sort of in the past week, it was beautiful. Of course, then, you know, things come up, and unfortunately it, you know, went out the window again, which is very irritating, but it's just part of the process. I know this, as frustrating as it is, but it's very, how can I say, I sometimes do find myself thinking, can I believe this? You know, when I do that healing work, you know how I normally do it. It's sort of, I'm like, but can it be this easy? It's sort of, and I do trust myself, but there is this little voice that's kind of, you know, I mean, I don't know. Can you, what do you think of that?
Well, what comes to mind while you're talking is, you know, that book that has given me my favorite saying, which is, after the enlightenment, the laundry. You know, and we have those spaces that we step into when we have a profound clearing or release of some kind. And it's a very expansive space, but we often can't stay in that space, because as we've stepped into this, the expanded space, our natural process is to expand further. So we reach a boundary within ourselves in that expanded space, and we need to break through that boundary. So as you clear something, you will feel that expanded space, you will feel that heart space, and then you hit the boundary. And that's another boundary that needs to be released and cleared. So it is a process of just releasing all of these things that constrict us and constrict our energy. So just keep moving through them. Don't think that you're going backwards, or that you've pulled something back in that you've already cleared, because that's not the case. What it is you've expanded, you know, you've been here, you've expanded out, there's another boundary. You clear that, expand further, there's another boundary. And what we are doing is releasing the barriers that keep us from maintaining that space of almost, I suppose, ecstasy in a way.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what we ultimately want to be getting to, that we're getting to a space where our awareness, our consciousness, and our energy is so expanded that we're able to stay in that space of joy and stay in that space of grace and that space of allowing. So every time you hit something, it's just another barrier. It's just another boundary that has been in place because of past experiences, programming, patterning, old emotions, whatever it is. So just keep working at it.
Okay.
You know,
So
I think in the
we will. Sorry.
I think in the past we're so used to hitting the wall.
Yeah.
You know, that when we hit something, we think, oh, you know, this is a process. I've got to break down the wall. But actually, these are not walls anymore. You know, the vision I have is almost of a field of wooden fence. You know, wooden fence you can push over. So it's much easier these days than, you know, we're not hitting walls. The walls we've done that. We really are hitting fences that are easier to push beyond and move beyond.
Okay.
I was just going to say, I was really glad you brought that up,
And
because this week I got hit back by something that I thought I'd managed to be calm about. I have a sister who pushes buttons like you wouldn't believe. And I did something where she just made me go into sort of heart palpitations. And I really thought I had this sorted. I was so relaxed, and she managed to do it. And I just thought, I've undone some good. But what you're saying now is really helpful to know that it's just probably another step that I've got to clear and go a little bit further, and that you don't actually go backwards. So I'm feeling quite relieved that that's been discussed, because I really thought I was going backwards. So not a good place to be.
Yeah, I mean, I think, no, and I think it's important to remember that actually the things that are pushing our buttons now are often residue of old stuff. And it's also, you know, there's also some muscle memory. We're so used to reacting in certain ways, or we're so used to responding in certain ways that that's what we do. So now we need to be able to recognize it and just say, oh, you know, this is just old. This is just a response that I have to a situation or to a person. And in that moment say, how do I shift this? How do I shift beyond it? And how do I allow it to be released so that it no longer impacts me moving forward? And I think we forget that we get into these habitual ways of being. And this year, more than any other year, I think in our known history, we've learned to recognize that our habits are not necessarily good, that we need to have an opportunity to be, and the space to be able to change them. But we can do that in a moment. So as you see these buttons coming up, it could be, it's really important to just step into that observer mode of saying, oh, this is interesting that this has come up. Okay, I'm feeling these old feelings of frustration or anger or fear or panic or anxiety or whatever it is. Just observe the feeling and say, okay, well, how do I shift or change my reaction, and how do I learn to respond to it in a different way? Because there's a huge difference between reaction and response. Reaction is an immediate reaction to something, and it's often a negative response to something. Whereas when we step into that observer role, and we're able to step into a space of saying, this is how I am choosing to respond to the situation. And we actually change the dynamic in relationships in that way. And then Elizabeth Rose has also just reminded me, Mars astrology is kicking our buttons, are bound to happen. Yeah, Mars is like at the closest it's going to be for the next 30 years or something. Venus and Mars and right there. And I think that, you know, we're also getting to a point where, and I think it's normal. Most years we get towards the end of the year and we're tired and we're exhausted and it's been a long year. And this year there's been a whole lot more that's been happening, which is exhausting us. And I think we're getting to the point where we're just sick of it. You know, so our levels of tolerance and patience are pretty thin. But also, you know, just be gentle and kind to yourself, and try not to judge that when it comes up. you know, when these things come up, it's best not to judge them, because when we're judging them, we're creating more of an issue around them. When we step into that space of observing, this is how I'm reacting to the situation, or this is how I'm reacting to this person, and we can recognize that actually this is just an old pain or an old emotion or an old pattern. When we step into a space of compassion for ourselves or kindness with ourselves in that space, it's easier to let it go. The judgment keeps it there. And Elissa has just written, I find that now with the energy as potent and supportive as it is, there is nothing to clear. It is all being cleared as long as we see it for what it is and acknowledge it. I get to the space where I'm able to just say, this is done. It no longer serves me. And then I let it go. That's brilliant. I like that. I don't get hung up on emotional stuff anymore because I can so clearly see that it isn't important. Yeah, I really like that. I have that saying of been here, done this, and I'm not doing it again. So I kind of have that, okay, I recognize this pattern, I recognize this feeling, I recognize this emotion, but actually, I'm not doing it again. And Nancy, they say that family can always push our buttons because they help to install them. That's a good one. And so true. Alyssa, I think I've really learned to be that in that observer mode, as you've just mentioned, and what has made freedom. Yes, been there, done that. Natasha, I can't begin the story of what is going on right now, drained and exhausted, but everything you're saying is making so much sense. I think we are pretty drained and exhausted right now. You know, not just only with the world and the state of things, but also with ourselves and our own stuff. Yeah, I mean, I've had a week of dealing with old stuff, and I'm like, really? Can't believe this is all back again. But you know, I also kind of look at it and say, well, the lesson sometimes is, do we re-engage with things that we've dealt with in the past? Sometimes it's just not necessary. Sometimes it's a case of seeing it just drifting on by and realizing, you know, certainly for me, I'm starting to realize that if I can meet it with a different level of consciousness and awareness, then the impact of it is different, and it automatically shifts and changes things. And also, you know, what we need to be careful of is taking on the stuff that is being thrown at us or projected onto us. I think that's also really important, is to get to a space of knowing yourself so well that you're able to actually go, you know what, this is not my stuff. This is your stuff and you can keep it. I'm not taking it. It's a projection. And I think we must remember, I mean, I remember years ago having an experience with a friend who lost her temper with me. And in the moment, I could so clearly see that this was not about me. It had nothing to do with me. And I made the fatal mistake of voicing that out loud and saying to her, you know, this is clearly your stuff and you're not going to put it on me, and, you know, take it back, and which infuriated her. And I, you know, it was a good lesson, because I realized in the moment that, you know, that's not a good idea to say things to someone else. But it is important that we recognize that for ourselves, so that we don't take on the burden of this energy or the emotion that they're throwing at us. And a lot of us being empathetic, it can be challenging to find those boundaries and that space to be able to do that. So it is important to remember, you know, just keep being aware of where you're at and what is your stuff and what is other people's stuff. Now is not, we've got too much going on to be able to process other people's things. You know, we really are at a space where we need to process our own. Alyssa's just written another message. Exactly. It's just there for you to take one final look at. It's no longer yours, and that's the reason it is there for you to realize, finally realize that it is no longer ours. Exactly. And I mean, yeah, family, yeah, they always manage to do that for us. I'm always fascinated. My family's scattered all over the world, so we don't see each other very often. And I always feel the need to say, don't engage with me thinking I'm the same person that I was when you saw me last, because I'm not. See who I am today. And I think it's important that we do that as well with ourselves, is recognize we are no longer those people. So the reactions and the responses are not actually how we should be responding or reacting. And then perhaps because they don't see that you don't need them to play that role still. Exactly. Yeah, certainly all our roles are changing right now. Things are different, and they're going to get more different. Okay, so any other messages or insights or information anyone wants to share before we get into some meditating?
Kate, excuse me, because I shared with the group that I had been exposed through a friend's daughter. I tested, I'm fine. Everybody else around her tested fine, and she's doing better. So that was a good way. And now I'm taking a week off this week to burn down some vacation time, and just gonna stay home and try to get some things done. So this is a good way to kick off my vacation.
Yeah, good, brilliant.
Nancy, yes, I took a week off just this last week as well, and spent it painting the outside of my porch on my house, and found it to be a meditative, clearing activity. I mean, talk about transforming to the new. It's a white porch, and so cleaning off the surface and the labor of painting and sanding, and then this pristine coat of white, I found it profoundly helpful and symbolic of everything that's going on right now. It was a good activity for sure.
Thanks, Jen. I'll try to look at cleaning my house in the same spiritual manner, because I'm just horrible at it.
Yeah, sometimes we need that. I drive my children mad because I'm forever moving furniture around, and they come out and see what I'm doing and disappear, saying, I'm not helping you with this. But I often feel the need to move things around because it kind of creates an energetic shift of some kind. Even if I just move them around, decide it doesn't really look nice, I move back again. It feels like there's this movement, and often we do need to do that. And I love that. But whitewashing, yeah, it's a beautiful way of clearing. Nice.
Yeah, it also had the interesting side effect. My children were going to help to do it, and I had these expectations of how the project was going to go, and of course it didn't go that way at all. And I had to really let go of some feelings that I had about expectations of other people. So that coming up at this time, I think, was also instructive.
Elizabeth Rose also has the same impulse to paint her exterior white. Blank canvas. That's nice. And Elise has just said, feeling the need to seclude and go inward, get very quiet and release this deeper stuff. Yeah, definitely feeling that inward call. It's important. Okay, so shall we get on? meditate. Where we go today and what comes up. So if you're ready, just get into a comfy space. So when you're ready, just closing your eyes. And just drawing your awareness to your breath. And just allow yourself to settle into this moment and into this time. Just allowing yourself to use your breath to relax and to let go. And just take a moment now to connect your body. Really feel into it. Perhaps draw your awareness straight down to your feet and allow yourself to connect to your feet. And then from your feet up, just slowly scan your body. Feeling any discomfort, any tension, any pressure, any pain. And just take a moment to breathe into that space and to let it go. Almost allowing yourself to draw the breath into those spaces, into your body. And consciously allowing yourself to let go and to release anything that you're currently holding on to. And when we do this, we allow for a lightness and a sense of peace and space. And then allow your awareness to move into your heart space and your heart center. And you may find that there's a tightness or a resistance in this space at the moment, and that's okay. Just allow what needs to be there to be there. Don't force it to be different. And then allow your awareness to move to your mind's eye. And in your mind's eye, visualize or imagine yourself standing before a closed door. And just observe what this door looks like. Is it a color? Is it a particular shape? Are there images on it? Carvings? And when you're ready, allow yourself to push this door open. And observe from this space what lies beyond the door. For some, this may be an expansive space. For others, there may be nothing. Just allow yourself to feel into it. And if you feel called to move into it, observe what is being shown to you, what is coming up in your body, what emotions are you feeling. And as you stand here, allow for there to be movement in your heart center. Perhaps there's a barrier that needs to be released, a boundary that needs to be crossed, or an emotion that needs to be freed. And when you're ready, visualize or imagine that there is a golden light coming up. And feel this golden light begin to pour through the crown of your head. And allow it to move down your body and into the heart center. And allow this light to flow from your heart center and into the space beyond the door. The golden light will illuminate, cleanse, clear, and release whatever is in need of being cleansed and released. It will illuminate what you are needing to see at this time. Just keep focusing on the light. And now allow this light to gather, to be focused, creating a path before you. And allow yourself now to step onto this path. Feel it stabilize beneath your feet. And allow yourself now to step forward. Recognizing that what is unfolding before you is the path of your heart. And the journey of your soul. Keep working to release any barriers or boundaries as they present themselves. And the more you connect to this path, the stronger it becomes. The more stable it becomes. And then when you're ready, keeping the connection that you have to this path. Feeling its stability. Yourself to take a few deep breaths, breathing yourself back into this time and into this space. Becoming aware of your surroundings, moving your fingers and your toes, and open your eyes when you're ready. Sorry, I didn't realize that some people couldn't hear me. I had my eyes closed, I wasn't reading the messages, but I hope you heard most of it. Good. I must say that for me was a little disconcerting because I opened my door and there was just darkness. Didn't really see much until the path came, and then I could see that leading to something. So don't be too freaked out if you didn't see anything. I didn't either, except for my golden path, which felt a bit like following the yellow brick road. Yeah, me too, Nancy. And I think it's, part of it is what I was saying earlier, is that idea that we're attached to these visions of how our life should be and how it is going to unfold. But I think that we need to know that what we're stepping into, we've never experienced before. So we have no idea what it's going to look like or how it's going to present itself. Oh. Michelle, thank you. That was very powerful for me. I had a powerful vision that keeps coming. Good. And Elizabeth Rose saw a marriage procession. Megan, the yellow brick road into the mist. Yeah. Lynn, a tightrope over a mountain gap, but then it was stabilized and the expansion was fantastic. Good. The darkness is the void, where the place where all creation happens. Yes, or begins. Thanks, Alyssa. Yes, that's exactly it. Fiona, I walked into a boggy, muddy path through tall rushes and then onto dry land, straight into a mouth of something screaming. Oh, some screaming creature shouting. Turned and was spat out. That's interesting.
Nothing spiritual in that. It was quite a journey. It was extraordinary, but yeah, I don't know whether it means anything, but it was.
I'll have a think on that and I'll get back to you. Elise, beauty and golden light. Alyssa, I saw so much gold light. It was beautiful. Yeah, I also, and Elise, ancient forest. Yeah, I also definitely saw the gold light, and it was this yellow brick path that was kind of unfolding before me. But I didn't kind of see anything on the sides. It was definitely leading to something that was very brightly lit, so that was good. But thank you, everyone. Oh, Elizabeth Rose saw an ancient jungle before the marriage. That's interesting. I have to see what comes. Jennifer, path is made stable and full of grace through nature. Specifically for me, tree roots that connect us from where we are to where we are going. Oh, that's beautiful. It's lovely. I like that. Well, thank you everyone for sharing, and thank you for joining me as usual on a Sunday afternoon, or at least it's a Sunday afternoon for me. I hope that you have a good week, and just remember, things are going to be coming up, but don't get too attached to them. Let them come up and move on by. Thanks, Nancy. See you all next week. Have a brilliant week.